Presenting Plato's Allegory of the Cave, a modern twist. Imagine people living underground in a cave. The mouth of the cave is as wide as allows light to come in. These people have been in the cave since childhood, chained to a wall by their ankles and wrists. They see only what is in front of them. A fire burns at a distance behind them. A wall between the fire and the prisoners acts like a curtain that hides puppeteers. The chained prisoners can see people passing behind the wall, carrying objects over their head. Some of the people carrying objects talk quietly as they walk by, but the prisoners see only shadows thrown by the fire on the wall in front of them. They can't see themselves or the people carrying the objects. The prisoners talk amongst themselves, believing they are discussing reality, that reality being the shadows on the wall, of course. Sounds echo off the cave, and the prisoners believe voices of others are the shadows making noises. And then, one day, one man is set free and forced to turn and walk toward the light. The light is blinding and painful. He is free but unable to see anything. A person, who we will call a guide, tells him what he previously saw on the cave walls was an illusion, and that he is going to see what is real and true now. The guide points to new objects and asks for their names. The former prisoner is unable to look at the light and instead looks at the shadows to avoid eye pain. The guide takes the ex-prisoner to the cave's exit into full sunlight, and the sunlight, as you can imagine, is blinding. The prisoner needs time to adjust to the world outside of the cave. He recognizes shadows. In time, he recognizes reflections in the water, and eventually, objects. And then nighttime comes, and he gazes into the night sky. With his eyes still adjusting, he is better able to see the moon and the stars than the sun. But eventually his eyes do adjust, and the sun rises, and finally he sees the sun for the first time, and considers its true nature. He would infer that the sun produces the seasons and years, and rules over everything visible, and is the cause of everything he used to see in the cave. He remembers where he used to be, back in the cave, and he feels sorry for the other prisoners, for he would rather be anywhere in the world, but back in that cave. He remembers that the prisoners gave each other honor by identifying shadows and predicting when they would reappear. He now thinks it's better not to be in their position. Imagine he returns to that cave. His eyes overcome with darkness. It takes some time for his eyes to adjust. Upon arrival, the prisoners ask him to compete to measuring and predict the shadows on the cave wall. He is unable, as his eyes have not yet adjusted, and to the prisoners he looks stupid. The prisoners decide that he has returned without his eyes. They declare that they will kill anyone who tries to leave the cave, and places the former escaped prisoner back in his chains for the rest of his life. The cave is like the prison that we live in, and the fire, the sun.
You do your very best now, Forrest. I sure will, Mom.
I remember the bus ride on the first day of school very well.
Are you coming along? Mama said not to be taking rides from strangers. This is the bus to school. I'm Forrest Gump.
In 1930, the Republican-controlled House of Representatives, in an effort to alleviate the effects of the the Great Depression, passed the the tariff bill, the Hawley-Smoot Tariff Act, which raised or raised tariffs in an effort to collect more revenue for the federal government. Did it work? Anyone? Anyone know the effects? It did not work, and the United States sank deeper into the Great Depression. Today, we have a similar debate over this. Anyone know what this is, class? Anyone? Anyone? Anyone seen this before? The Laffer curve. Anyone know what this says? It says that at this point on the revenue curve, you will get exactly the same amount of revenue as at this point. This is very controversial. Does anyone know what Vice President Bush called this in 1980? Anyone? Something DOO economics. Voodoo economics.
Students often receive research assignments requiring the use of credible sources. But what does it mean for a source to be credible?
What's a credible source?
Why is it important to use these sources? And how can you tell if a source is credible?
Is it like,
when we describe a source as credible,
we're
basically saying that the information is high quality and trustworthy. Essentially, that we can believe what the source is telling us.
It has to be believable. It has to come from authority, okay.
When you use high quality sources to back up your points, you demonstrate your own credibility as a writer, thereby contributing to the overall effectiveness of your argument.
I need to piggyback off the work of all the experts.
Other high quality research.
Okay,
this is
the
true
experts,
of both your
they
own
know.
Work and the work
if I
of
write what they
professional
write,
researchers.
I'll be respected.
There are several factors that contribute to a source's credibility.
Success.
Among them are the author's level of expertise, her point of view,
I want the author to be an expert
date.
Because the experts know they're studying and
the author's level of expertise on the topic he or she is writing
science.
About could take the form
so
of
like
an
the
advanced
GMOs.
Degree or other extensive
All right, I'm going to eat as many GMOs as I can. Let's put pesticides on it.
Often provides information about the author's credentials. Sometimes, however, the author's credentials may not be listed, and the publication itself can be the marker of quality. This is often true for some non-scholarly publications like well-respected
the New York
newspapers
Times,
and magazines,
the Washington Post, CNN,
is critically examined as
very
part
reputable
of the
sources.
Process. Another important component of a source's credibility is its point of view, in particular its potential bias. Bias is an inaccurate or unfair presentation of information. In some cases, bias is intentional. A group with its own agenda may sponsor research or information, and the sponsorship may influence the results. Bias can also be unintentional. A writer's perspective may prevent him or her from being able to see all sides of an issue. Sometimes you need unbiased facts to support your point, but other times you might want people's opinions, and that's okay, as long as you acknowledge the source's perspective in your own work. While bias can be difficult to detect, be aware that it can exist in any kind of source, including things you find through the library. In the academic publishing world, books and articles go through a rigorous editorial process, in which an editor or group of scholars evaluate the work's quality. When it comes to journal articles, this process is called peer review. Peer review articles are considered high quality because the review process helps to filter out sources that are written by unqualified or biased
big corporation use grants to
Finally,
leverage
with any source, consider when
journals.
It was published or last updated. Even something that was once high quality can now be out of date and unsuitable for some purposes. If I needed current statistics on the average cost of college in the United States, a source published in the 1990s would be out of date. However, if I was looking at the increase in college tuition over the last few decades, a source from the 1990s might fit my purposes. Of course, not every credible source is appropriate for your research. Be sure to evaluate not only a source's trustworthiness, but also its appropriateness for your argument. For help finding credible sources or determining whether a source you found is credible, ask a librarian.
I did it! I graduated school, I can't believe it! I'm gonna get a job, I'm gonna have so much money, I can't wait! Oh, what I'm gonna do with this degree, this female studies. How am I gonna pay off my debt? Oh.
My fellow Americans, as President and Commander-in-Chief, it is my duty to the American people to report that renewed hostile actions against United States ships on the high seas in the Gulf of Tonkin have today required me to order the military forces of the United States to take action in reply.
While I was there, I saw the Iraqi soldiers come into the hospital with guns. They took the babies out of the incubators. Took the incubators and left the children to die on the cold floor.
I take the threat very seriously. I take the fact that he develops weapons of mass destruction very seriously.
This has been a difficult week for the State Department and for our country. We've seen the heavy assault on our post in Benghazi that took the lives of those brave men. We've seen rage and violence directed at American embassies over an awful internet video that we had nothing to do with.
I said this once or twice, but it bears repeating. You can keep your plan if you're satisfied with it. If you like the plan you have, you can keep it. If you like your plan and you like your doctor, you won't have to do a thing. You keep your plan. If you like your health care plan, you'll be able to keep your health care plan.
And Russian officials and even Vladimir Putin ordered a cyber campaign to help President Trump. But one thing that they've been struggling to find is the issue of collusion, whether there has been any so far between Russian officials and Trump officials, because there are a lot of leads and a lot of questions that they have yet to answer.
And obviously, they have made clear publicly that the FBI is investigating potential collusion between President Trump's campaign during the 2016 presidential race and any sort of collusion with suspected Russian operatives, Anderson.
The FBI did not want to pursue leaks. They thought the most important part of the story was the probe into Russian collusion, possible collusion with the Trump campaign. Do you know anything about that? Why?
You know what? A friend of mine told me to check a couple of things out on the internet from some of those unreputable sources. He told me to look at this thing, FFRnews. I know that that's not a reputable source. That's not the New York Times, CNN, Fox News. It's nothing. It's not a online journal, the reputable one. But, you know, all right, I'll take a look. Let's scrolling through the internet, looking at FFRnews. What is this stuff? Wait a second. This is pretty well documented. Wow, they have videos of admitted lies and books written by primary sources and congressional testimonies and information that comes out via discovery and lawsuits. And wait, I thought the New York Times and CNN and Obama and Bush were telling me the truth. Hey guys, I'm reading some historical books. This is Tragedy and Hope by Carroll Quigley. He talks about this thing called the Society of the Elect, secret group that got together in England in the late 1800s. They were led by this guy, John Cecil Rhodes, and he was the head of the De Beers Diamond Company. He had a monopoly, and he teamed up with the Rothschild banking family, and they formed the society, and their goal was to spread English culture throughout the rest of the world, and pretty much he labels how they've done that since then, but nothing to see here. You don't want to read this. Moving on. Hey guys, how you doing? Hi, my name is Tom. Can I talk to you? I have something amazing I had to tell you. I've been doing all this research. I've been digging very deep into American history, the history of the world, and so much of what we've been told is a lie. Where do I start with the wars? We could go all the way back to the USS Maine. That was a lie. The governments admitted it. They started the Spanish-American War and the sinking of the Lusitania. There was pre-warning for that. The government knew that was going to happen. And the Gulf of Tonkin, our ship wasn't attacked at the Gulf of Tonkin, and that launched the Vietnam War. And then they said there was weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, and we invaded Iraq in 2003, and in the invasion of Iraq before that, they said there were babies in incubators, and then we attacked after that lie. And it's been lie after lie, and it's not just the politicians, or it's not the Democrats, it's not the Republicans, and one after one, you won't believe it. The news media, the CNN, Fox News, they all cover it up. They all know it's lies. And it goes to our food and our GMOs, and the people wonder why the cancer rate's going up. The same government that once told us cigarettes were good for us. And we eat the GMOs and the cancer rate goes up and up and up. And I could show you. I could show you the documentation. I could show you how Roundup glyphosate causes cancer. I could show you that the fluoride causes brain damage in children. I could show you that the vaccines cause tremendous lifelong damage in a multitude of areas, including a disturbing correlation between vaccines and autism. Where else do I go? Where else do I go? The war on drugs. The war on drugs. Have you ever heard of Gary Webb, the real Rick Ross? Do you know the CIA was caught running drugs into the inner cities of America, and then they profit and use that drug money to start wars overseas and fund their black operations? What do you mean you don't believe me? What do you mean? I'm telling you, come out of the cave. What do you mean? I'm crazy. You're gonna lock. What? What are you? None of you believe me? I could show you the books to read. I could show you the documentation. I could show you congressional hearings, court documents, books, primary sources, the writings of people admitting to these things, the government admitting it on tape. You don't care if it's on tape. You don't believe it. How do I break you out of this slumber? How do I get you to leave the cave? I don't know if I ever will. It'd be pretty lonely. I'll just have to keep trying. Hey guys, how you doing? I hope you like that production. You know, the Allegory of the Cave is one of those historical writings that have really stood the test of time. And if you'd like to hear more about the Allegory of the Cave, Plato's Republic, I am offering an exclusive video at patreon.com. Go to www.patreon.com, become a patron, and gain access to some deeper thoughts regarding the Allegory of the Cave and Plato's Republic. Alright guys, thanks. I'm Tom Anderson, FFR News.